Hey guys, LootWizard here with another video on Gems of War, and this time we're going to be comparing a couple of classes here. I'm kind of doing this video because of one of my subscribers, JF, gave me a suggestion that I should do videos talking about different classes and teams that can work good with those classes. So this is going to be one of those kind of videos, and I'll probably do more of these in the future. But this week we have a class trial for the Runepriest, and the event kingdom that's going on is the Kaziel kingdom, which is a dwarf kingdom, and the Runepriest is considered a dwarf class. And if you go to the Runepriest and you go to class info, you can see that that is what it is, dwarf right here, and Kaziel is the kingdom that it's associated with. So I'm going to be comparing a little bit here of the Runepriest class with the Titan class. And I know everybody, including myself, usually says the Titan class is the #1 class and all that, but there are other classes here in the game that do some things better than Titan, and Runepriest does two things better than Titan, and they're actually pretty good things. So we're going to be going into that in a short while here. First of all, the class weapon, real quick here, Rune Forger. It does a little bit of splash damage, and then it will explode a random gem for every brown ally and enemy. So at the least, if you have 4 brown troops in your team, you can get 4 gems to explode. If the enemy team, which you don't have any control over, so it's kind of random, you could get another 4 gems to explode for that. I don't think this weapon is really that good. It's okay, but it's not something that I use that often. Mountain Crusher, for example, is a little bit less of mana cost, and it's going to explode way more gems more reliably than the Rune Forger weapon here. But it's not the worst weapon ever. I've seen worse weapons for sure. But anyway, moving on to comparing the classes here. So first of all, when you go to the skills tab in any class, you can see the magic bonus color. So all the weapons that are brown, if you equip this class, they will get a 5+ increase to their magic. So that's significant, you know, that's a good thing to look at. And that's why if you use Mountain Crusher, your magic will get that 5+ to it. If you're using Mang, any brown weapon that you use, you'll get that 5+ bonus to it. Now, moving on here, let's look at its traits really quickly. So it's a dwarf class, so it's centered around basically brown mana and dwarves. So the first trait here is for dwarves will gain 2 life, and then the middle one here, Rocky Death, it'll summon a dust storm when an enemy dies, which isn't a really big deal because sometimes if you're using this class, a lot of times you're going to be using brown. And probably Mountain Crusher and things like that, so you can get a Dust Storm. But if you're not using Mountain Crusher and you just don't have a way to generate too much brown, that extra Dust Storm may be useful. Now, Dwarven Metal here is actually pretty good if you use Apothecary or even Stonehammer in your team, because you're going to get a lot of 4 and 5 matches with those 2 troops, and you're going to get an extra 2 life and attack added every single 4 or 5 match to all of your dwarf troops. And that can add up. That by the end of a match, that could be an extra like 10, 15, 20, depends on how many turns and how many 4 or 5 matches that you get. Sometimes in a single turn, you can get 3 or 4 or 5 matches. So that's pretty good there, and that is something that Titan class can't do. So for example, sure, you could put the Titan class at the top of your team or somewhere in there with Mountain Crusher, and then you could put 3 other dwarf troops. So you'd have your Titan class, which is a giant, and then you'd have your 3 dwarf troops. But if you do that, you won't get this bonus on the 4 or 5 gem matches. So that is one thing that the Runepriest here can do for you that Titan can't do, but it's specific to dwarf teams. Okay, so that's the traits. Now let's go to talents here, and pretty much everything is the same here except, well, there's 2 different talent trees here than Titan. Stone is one that it shares with Titan, and Knowledge and Guardian are different. So really quickly here, if we go and scroll over to Titan, and you take a look at its talent trees, it has War, Stone, and Storms. So War and Storms are talent trees that Titan has that Runepriest doesn't. But Stone is the talent tree where your Rock Solid is, which you always get at level 40. So it shares that one tree in common with the Runepriest. So the Runepriest has 2 trees in its talents here that are different. Now, Knowledge and Guardian, there are some good talents in these 2 trees and talents that obviously, because we just compared the 2 of them, the Titan does not have. So I'm just going to point out really quickly here what talents I think are really good here in these 2 trees. So you have Vanguard, which is gain barrier at the start of the battle. Titan class cannot do that. You have to find a brown gem first before you can get that Rock Solid going. So with the Runepriest class, you can get a barrier right away at the start of the battle, and that might help you in situations where the other team has one of those troops where it can create skulls like immediately because it starts with full mana and they have a web spinner at the top of their team. That barrier might save you right away at the start of the battle. Golem Protector over here, 20% chance to summon an Ancient Golem when I take damage to life. It can be useful in some situations, but I would go with Vanguard probably over that. The next one here is you have 2 options here, Tactician or Razor Armor. Now, Razor Armor I think is actually pretty good because if you have any kind of weapon or way to gain extra armor on your class weapon, that 20% of that armor is going to be added to skull damage. And in some of these battles, you can get your armor up to 400, and then 20% of that's a significant amount of skull damage that's being done. So Razor Armor here is actually pretty good, and Titan class does not have that. You can also gain 3 magic for the start of your battle. There's also Dwarven Armor here. If you have a whole Dwarf team, then you can gain 4 armor for each Dwarf ally. So that's 4 multiplied by 4. That's your extra armor. Rock Solid, it's amazing, one of the best talents. So that's really good there. Now, also, it has Savior over here in the Guardian tree. When an ally dies, barrier another random ally. That is also pretty good, and Titan doesn't have that. Now we're coming down to 2 talents that really were in my mind when I said earlier that it can do 2 things that Titan can't do. And that is Tree of Knowledge and Banishment. These 2, in my opinion, are really, really good. And it's one of the reasons why I do like the Runepriest sometimes, is that Banishment here, if you select that, it'll dispel all enemies on a 4 or 5 gem matches. So, for example, Apothecary is a really good mana converter generator troop that is also a dwarf troop. So it's perfect for this class. And that troop will cleanse all allies on a when you cast it. It can create a 4 or 5 gem match depending upon what's on the board and what you choose. And then if you get that 4 or 5 gem match with this talent here, Banishment, you'll dispel all enemies. So what that means is that if any enemies has barrier, like for example, if they have a Dawnbringer and it casts its spell and then all troops gain barrier, 1-4 match with this Banishment talent, and it'll erase all those barriers. Same thing if it has like enchantment, or if it has any of those kind of positive status effects, it'll just banish that. So that's really nice, especially for events like Siege, where you have those different towers and they get barrier on them. That can be really good for that. Tree of Knowledge is also something I use quite often because sometimes you just don't have any brown mana on the board to get your weapon powered up if you're using a brown weapon. But let's say you're using any color of weapon, doesn't really matter, but if you don't have the color to get it powered up right away, but you do have a green gem you can match, well, if you match that green gem, guess what? Your hero gets enchanted, and that gets your mana. 2 mana every single turn is added to your hero weapon until it's fully powered up once it's enchanted. So this also is really, really strong as well in certain situations. So when I don't need Banishment, I always select Tree of Knowledge in this class. And of course, I don't have mine all the way to 100 yet. I'm really close, but Fortitude here at 100 is the best talent, I think, in the game, because it makes you immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, and devour. So that's amazing. So, but really quick here, those were the talents that I think stand out in this class, and I would say Banishment and Tree of Knowledge. For those two alone, it's probably worth leveling up Runepriest, at least to that point, but definitely to 100 would make it stronger because you have Fortitude. And I do think that Runepriest is the only class in the game that has the Rock Solid talent that also has Tree of Knowledge. So that's something to keep in mind as well. That's one thing that I think sets Runepriest out among the classes that do have the Rock Solid talent. Now, so we compared pretty much that. That's my opinion of Runepriest. I do think that it is worth leveling up. And I wouldn't say that it's better than Titan, but it's, you know, it's hard to say it's better because Titan has everything that Runepriest has except for the Tree of Knowledge and Banishment, and Titan has one thing that Runepriest doesn't have, which is Lightning Strike, which is really good for generating mana. So that's pretty much all the major difference anyway. It's here, Lightning Strike. So those are just some major differences. I'm not going to say that Runepriest is better than Titan or Titan's better than Runepriest. I use both off and on. But I'm not going to make this video into comparing all the talent, all the classes that do Rock Solid talent. Maybe that'll be a different video. But I do want to get into some of these teams because, yeah, let's go into some of those. We'll play a couple of these. So I have 4 different teams all set up here that all use Runepriest. And I'm going to go over all of these really quickly. I say really quickly, but knowing me, I ramble all the time, so it's probably going to be like another 15 minutes. But let's start with this one, Runepriest 1. So I'm using Essence of Evil at the top, Dwarven Gate, which Dwarven Gate is from the Event Kingdom this week. And Dwarven Gate is a really good troop. It's considered common, but it does reduce damage from skulls by 50%. It gains armor, which is boosted by all Dwarven allies, and then all other allies gain barrier and 5 mana. That's a really good troop. Lady Ironbeard is also really good, does damage, and it will do triple damage to an enemy if that enemy's armor is weaker. And then you have King Highforge, which is also a good troop here. It is actually the legendary troop of the dwarves. So if you unlock all of its traits, it will make all other dwarves start with 50% mana. It stuns, which is also a really good thing, and then it will summon a random dwarf. So if your hero gets taken out and your King Highforge is left down here, it can summon more dwarf troops. So that's really nice. It's good for surviving battles. But so we got barrier going on here with the Dwarven Gate. Essence of Evil is just a different color here. It's going to shut down with whatever they're doing, and it'll allow me to, we can cast Ironbeard to kind of snipe them out. And of course, they got Essence of Evil here too. So it's pretty much a battle to see who's going to get powered up first, I think. And of course, they probably have Root Trap. I don't know what class here. Okay, they're using Warden. So yeah, they have Root Trap here. That's why I'm entangled. But as you can see, I started Barrier right here, right away at the beginning. So I could go green to get that up, or I could go blue to get my Dwarven Gate full. And we're going to probably go blue just because he's got the Moon Rabbit here, which will convert blue gems to yellow, and he'll get a 4 match here. So we're going to block him from doing that. And now we can take this 4 match down here. Take this up here. That got our Essence of Evil up. And since he's using Warden, I don't think he has Stealthy. Nope. So we should be able to cast this Essence of Evil on his Essence of Evil, shut him down. And then we can use our Dwarven Gate. Now everything has barrier. And we got a couple options here. We can either take the Skull to do damage here, which we probably should do because this troop, Forest Guardian, will transform purple gems to skulls, and he's got a good 4 match of that right there, so I think I'm going to go ahead and use that. And so now he's also got barrier on some of his troops because of Forest Guardian, so this is going to be a fun battle. So let's see, we have skulls, but I have barrier, so that's fine right now. Let's start doing some damage. This is going to do triple damage, so it's going to do 3 times the 44. If the armor is less, this one does have that, so let's go ahead and hit that. And that pretty much took him out. He's only got a little bit left. We're going to hit him with a skull, kill him. And good thing about Essence of Evil, when it puts all these negative stats effects on it, it has Hunter's Mark, which is this red circle here with the bullseye mark. And that means whenever a troop is Hunter's Marked, it means that skull damage is going to do double. So I'm going to do like close to 80 damage there to him with that skull. And everything has barrier now, unfortunately. Let's take another blue to get Dwarven Gate up. And we're going to have to knock those barriers off. Let's shut down this Forest Guardian because it's just going to keep giving them barrier. And now let's use this and snipe the Essence of Evil weapon. And we can shut down this Moon Rabbit too. And Lady Ironbeard here is really good for sniping. Just one hit stuff, you know. It won't kill all of the troops that you hit with it with one hit, but it is pretty good. That troop just died from Death Mark. So, but yeah, Runepriest here with that team. So this is a pretty nasty team right here as well. But this was team 1. Let's go on to team 2. Let's see if we can have some success with this team. We have Dragon's Eye right here, which is going to destroy gems. So it's a little bit of a mana generator. And then it will transform the last enemy into an empowered baby dragon. So this Graveseer down here, if we can get to that, we're going to transform that. And we'll create some Doom Skulls with King Bloodhammer. And we can also stun with the King Highforge here. Now, another thing to note is the King Highforge does do more damage boosted by allied dwarves. So it's best used with other dwarf troops like we're doing. Also, because our Runepriest class is considered a dwarf, it is going to start with 50% mana because of King Highforge here down at the bottom. Now, there is a little bit of mana blocking going on here, but Apothecary is going to take care of that because we can transform into brown, and we'll have plenty of brown. And it's always good to start off with a 4 match here, and as you can see the Tree of Knowledge here. I think I have Tree of Knowledge selected. Yep, I do. So when I match those green gems, now you can see that this is enchanted, and it's going to get powered up here really quick. So I kind of want to shut this down, and I think I want to try to bait him into taking the skull because I have barrier. So let's see if I do this. Not quite. I was hoping that was going to get full. I'm 1 mana short, unfortunately. This is going to transform all green gems and then enchant the strongest ally, which is usually the hero. So let's take another green so we can get Apothecary up. And he didn't cast the Graveseer, so that's really good. We're going to go ahead and transform him because I want to shut down his mana generator right away. And the good thing about having Apothecary, because he just stunned me because of Obsidious here, but Apothecary is going to cleanse all my allies, so that's really good. Now we just got to find... we're going to have to convert green here because that's our only 4 match. And now we have the Dragon's Eye back up, but let's go ahead and take some brown here, fill up these 2. And unfortunately, we don't have skulls matched with blue, otherwise I'd cast our King Bloodhammer here. Well, we do have 1 here, but 1 isn't going to do much to this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cast King Highforge here. We're going to stun Obsidious so he can't keep stunning us. Okay, we do have a blue there, and we got a blue here. Let's just cast King Bloodhammer. Do some of that skull damage. And down goes my hero. It's not the end yet. Those Doom weapons are pretty powerful. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. Can we get a 4-match of brown anywhere? Got green here, we got green there. A little bit of yellow. We do have 2 red. I don't see any 4 matches. We could just go red. Get rid of that Gorgatha. Ah, that Doom weapon just ruined my entire plan. I was going to use King Highforge to summon another troop. Anyway, let's try a couple more battles here. Yeah, we'll use this. We got a lucky match there. And let's go ahead and shut down his mana generator again. A lot of times these teams always have like a mana generator right there at the bottom. So we got a nice blue 4-match here. So we're going to cast King Bloodhammer. Do some of that Doom Skull damage. Don't really have any 4 matches with brown. Wow, that's a lot of red. You'd think there would be a 4-match somewhere in here, but nope. Well, we're going to use that to get rid of those, and let's go ahead and transform that bottom troop again. Get rid of Yao. And we do have a 4-match of blue there. Doom Skulls. And we can use King Highforge there. We'll summon that other troop. So that really helps to like survive the battle, as you can see. So, you know, that team is probably not the best team ever. But you know, King Bloodhammer is pretty powerful. It's just you getting that blue mana. But yeah. Then there's another team here, Runepriest 3. This one I really like. The next 2, actually, 3 and 4, are like probably my favorite out of the teams that I set up here. But I don't know if we're going to be able to beat this crazy crazy boss troop here with it, but we can give it a try. And of course he's gonna freeze me. Go ahead and hit him with life and death. And we're going to go ahead and burn and stun everything. Ha, his hero died a death mark. Fantastic. We use the deep bore to generate some brown mana there. And of course he's got the hero up. Go ahead, do your worst. Killed my tank. We'll just... life and death just killed the boss. Summon another troop here. And this troop is really powerful too. This one right here, Moya Cragheart, because it will convert green gems to Doom Skulls. That's another really powerful dwarf troop. But let's do one more battle with this team because I didn't really get to show like Stonehammer what it's doing. Oh, this is pretty much a classic Doomskull team as well here. So I don't know if we're gonna beat it, but we can try. Essence of Evil is always dangerous. I don't have anything to really shut it down either. Alright, so I guess we'll do Life and Death. Hit it with a skull. And let's burn and stun everything. And okay, so real quick here, the Stonehammer has the 80% skull damage reduction. It's immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, and devour. So it's awesome tank. As well as it stuns and burns all enemies. Then it creates a mix of 22 red and brown gems. It gains life. So the red and brown gems, red is going to, brown is going to go back into Stonehammer, but red will go into Deep Borer, and any red overflow will go into the King down here at the bottom. Any overflow of brown will go down into the Life and Death weapon. And of course, it created some Doom Skulls, but that's in my favor. And we're going to use Life and Death on the last two. And we'll use the King. And there's so much brown on the board like this, I could do that, but sometimes if you have this full, it's nice to go ahead and use this as well. And then you can usually get a 4 match of brown and get that full. But as you can see, I was doing those 4 matches. And it's really hard to see when it goes by really quick, but my attack, I'm gaining 2 life and 2 attack on all those 4 or 5 matches. So with this troop here creating all the mana, and with your Deep Borer creating mana, you're getting a lot of those 4 or 5 matches. So yeah, I really like this team. I've been using it a little bit here in PvP, and it's actually quite powerful. I mean, Life and Death is powerful, but combined with those dwarf troops that are generating the mana and being a tank for you and all that, it's pretty powerful. Now for the last one, I have a similar setup but a little different. Instead of Life and Death, we're using Secrets of the Crypt, and at the bottom we're using Gimlet for another mana generating troop here. So it's Stonehammer, your tank, and your mana generator, and then Secrets of the Crypt is going to be stealing life from the 2 weakest enemies. It'll summon a random undead. And then we have King Highforge for half mana for everything, and for doing some damage, stunning, and summoning a dwarf when one of our troops dies. So I don't know if we'll be able to beat this team, because this one's I've seen this one a lot in PvP with the Mistralis mythic troop and the Queen Beatrix. Those two together seem to be pretty strong. But anyway, let's see what we can do here. And I did grab a green gem there real early, just out of habit. And I got that enchantment on there because I'm using the Runepriest class. So now the question is, what do I take? Well, there's so much yellow on the board, but I think I'm going to take the red. Now I can cast this, steal some life. And I wish we could get some brown going here, but we could just take a green again and enchant. Well, we got a little bit of a cascade there. Alright, let's do this. Now we're talking. Look at all that mana. That's one of the things that's really great about Stonehammer. All that mana that it generates. It's beautiful. And the green, this actually works out really good for me. Queen Beatrix created all this brown and green together, and guess what my Gimlet does? Transforms all green to brown. So yeah, that worked out perfect. And yeah, so then we can just create more mana with Stonehammer. That'll fill up our Secrets of the Crypt. Finish off those two. And this Beatrix is kind of dangerous too here. We got to be a little bit cautious. But I'm pretty confident we're going to win. The only way it could win is if it got extra turns every single time, the whole time until it beat me. So we could skull poke it, or we could just Secrets of the Crypt, do damage to it, done. And yeah, that's the last team there. So four teams there that use Runepriest and Dwarf troops with it. And there's obviously more troops than what I chose here in these kingdoms. So, and there's more weapon options. You could always make different teams besides what I put together. But these are just a couple of teams that I put together just on a whim here to try to show like Runepriest with different troops in that are considered dwarf troops. So yeah, that's the video. You know, I'm going to end it here because it's 30 minutes long. A little bit longer than I wanted it to be. I was going to try to push this into like 20 minutes, but it just didn't happen that way. So there you go, guys. That's Runepriest class against the Titan class. What's good about the Runepriest, and also some dwarf teams that go along with that class. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I always appreciate it if you give a thumbs up on my videos, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. That always gives me motivation to continue to make more videos like this for Gems of War. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.